I hear this with you guys all the times, you know.
Who's these guys?
Yeah, these
Who's
guys,
these
you have,
guys?
hold on, you have the tough questions at your hands. And whenever you don't have a good answer, you go back to the same talking points. Anti-imperialism this, you know, anti-America this, corporations that. But you don't give a fuck
So you're
about any of
grouping me
this.
with a bunch of people, and you're not dealing with me
You don't
because it
care. You don't have solutions.
seems like you're trying to move away from this topic.
No, I'm trying to keep you from, this is my thing. You don't have an answer to half your dumb shit COVID vax question. You know, like, why the corporations fire people? And then you bring up, like, well, people get fired in general. I know people get fired in general. That's how our economy works. You brought it up.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. Let me just make sure my stream can hear you. Can you guys hear and let me know in the chat?
Hold on. I think judging from the contrast between your mic here and your mic on your stream, I wonder if Discord is picking up the right microphone. Would you mind checking that for me?
Sure. Why does it sound echoey on
Uh,
your end?
it just sounds like a default low quality laptop mic or something like that, as opposed
Yeah,
to
that's because I'm using my phone. Is
oh,
that all right?
for the Discord call.
Yeah, I'm using my phone for the Discord call. Is that all right?
Oh, that's fine. If it's what works with your setup, that's fine. Just trying to optimize with what we have. You do sound well enough.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, so you want to talk about mandates, jab mandates?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a couple of things, right? So for context, you know, I encountered you when you posted a Twitter clip where it was me saying I was an Antifa informant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really do have to ask though. You didn't think that was like serious when you posted that clip, right? Like you
I don't
recognize.
know if it was. I don't know if it was. Right now, I can tell you I can't prove that. At the end of the day, what matters is the things that you say on your show. And so people should just make their judgments off of that. I can't prove whether you're an informant or not. I hope that's clear. Like I can't debate you on that. Like I would have to show evidence for that.
Oh yeah, no, you couldn't. Um, it's just like, you know, it's kind of like a cycle because, you know, people call me CIA, you know, backed by the State Department. Usually people politically aligned with you, right? Do you think it's fair to say you're kind of politically aligned with the Jimmy Dore gray zone crowd, right? Like you would be fine with me saying you're sort of in a similar wedge of the political space?
I would go case by case because there are some stuff that we agree on, but not everything. I was
Gotcha.
covering the COVID stuff before Jimmy and the Gray Zone were. Um, I would have to sit down and like make a list and see like what checks off and what doesn't check off.
Gotcha. Well, apparently you got like yoinked from YouTube for it, didn't you? Or something like that. I remember when I tuned into your stream, you were saying you'd gotten in some kind of trouble for your COVID takes.
Yeah, I got a strike when I talked about Joe Rogan having Sanjay Gupta, but other channels talked about it also, but their channels didn't get yoinked or given a strike. I got a strike, or yeah, I got a strike. I still have a warning. First, I can't remember what the other reason was.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. What's your name, by the way? Because chat's chat
You can
wants
call me Franco, Franco
Franco.
of
Gotcha.
Frank Analysis. Yeah.
And they also want to know your pronouns, so they're not uncouth.
I go by he, him.
All right, thank you. They're touchy about that sometimes. Anyway, yeah, it's just there's this narrative, or it gets repeated. I don't know how much of it is satirical, that I'm like CIA, FBI, State Department, et cetera, et cetera. So at this point I pretty much just lean into it, you know, because it's quite funny. Given that I'm just a YouTuber, I mean, I just record videos out of my house. The idea that I'm part of some big like government operation is really really funny. So that was the reason why, you know, the informant comments, comments like that, similar ones at least, we make pretty often, I think.
Yeah, well, again, I'm not here to debate you on that. Like, I don't have evidence to back that up.
No, no, yeah, I'm just explaining it. But you want to talk about the Fauci ouchie, as it were.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to talk about some articles, peer-reviewed articles, some other evidence I've come across, and I want to get some of your thoughts on that. But I also want to ask you a question first,
Mhm.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, hit me up.
Um, so you debated or had a discussion with Michael Tracy back in, I think it was like June last year about Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
and you were of the stance that the gatherings that were happening outside for Black Lives Matter were not contributing to the spread of COVID.
Yes, that
So
seemed
do
to
you
be the
still
case.
stand by that? Okay. Do you still stand by that?
Uh, I haven't looked at the data since that debate. At the time, the data did favor that. I don't know if anything's changed since then.
Okay. So do you think that gatherings like that should continue?
Well, I think if it's for the right cause, I think the Black
Okay.
Lives Matter stuff was severe and immediate enough that it warranted those protests. I don't think they had a negative effect on COVID transmission either, for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're almost always outdoors, those protests, back when they were really happening. A lot of people did distance and wear masks within them. Obviously, the pictures that we took of the BLM protests were mostly of like the biggest ones where people are packed in on city streets, but a lot of them were a lot more, spread out. And then finally, the existence of major protests discourages other people from going outside of their houses because they're afraid of their safety, which is a pretty common thing during protests. So it had an adverse effect on other people's virus transmission.
All right. Sorry, I was taking a sip of water. So you don't think it contributed to it because people were masking up, it was outside. So do you think that if people go outside and stuff, should they be showing like their vaccine passport?
To go outside? No, probably not.
Yeah.
That seems a bit excessive, I think.
Okay. What about outside concerts and stuff, like gatherings like that?
Um, I guess, I mean, the COVID card mandates are done on a state by state level. If there was a state that mandated that in order to go to a concert, like in order for a concert venue to be hosted, you needed to present that, I don't know if I'd be against that. I think that'd be acceptable, yeah.
Okay, so no requirements for vaccine if you go to an outside concert. No, you don't have to show your vaccine passport for that.
No, I'd be
Uh,
fine with a state with a state doing that, yeah, to make it so that
oh,
if you went to one, you would have to show a vaccine passport.
okay. So I'm of the stance that people should be able to weigh out their options. Like if they think that they'd be allergic to something on it, um, in the vaccine, they shouldn't have to take it. Or even if they see that there's a risk, given things that we've seen in bears, even the CDC acknowledging that myocarditis is a risk, as well as other adverse effects. If there's a possibility of people getting a negative adverse effect, they should have the freedom to choose whether they get the vaccine or not.
Well, they do, don't they?
Is that a fair stance?
Oh, sure, yeah, they have the freedom to. The government doesn't currently mandate we take any vaccine, as far as I know. It's only a prerequisite for accessing certain institutions.
So, so you don't think that everybody should get a vaccine?
Well, I think everyone who can should. I think the number of people who have adverse effects or have a risk for adverse effects is very low. One of the reasons we need everyone to get a vaccine is because those few people who can't are that much more vulnerable, right? They tend to have immunodeficient diseases, so we need to be that much more careful with them.
Okay. So why should somebody lose their job if, say, they don't want to take the vaccine?
Why should others, coworkers, be put at risk by being exposed to a person who refuses to inoculate themselves?
So how do you know that they're at risk from that unvaccinated person if they can also get it from a vaccinated person?
Because unvaccinated people, it seems, are more likely to transmit it. Not by a tremendous amount, admittedly, since Delta and Omicron, even vaccinated people are transmitting it a good bit more. But an unvaccinated person is also an incubus for a much greater likelihood of of COVID mutations. So it goes beyond just, whether you can get it in that moment, and also goes towards sort of broader social concerns. I also think there's something worth saying here about like the right of the employer, right? I feel like if I was employing, not incubus, sorry, a petri dish. I feel like if I was an employer, I probably wouldn't want to have unvaccinated people working for me. If they're more likely to get sick, they're more likely to die. They have, other even if they do get sick with the same likelihood, they're more likely to be in the hospital. I mean, it seems like a huge liability. We should probably be encouraging everyone to be getting vaccinated.
Okay. So let me show you something from the Lancet.
Mhm.
You don't mind showing my screen real quick so you guys can see, people on your screen can see
Just
what I'm showing.
link it over to me, and I'll give it a look. I'll follow along. I'm a good listener.
Give me a second because I have a lot of stuff here.
Gotcha.
So, pick it up, copy, and paste over to you. I sent it to your Twitter,
Gotcha.
so straight from the Lancet.
All right. Let me see. Community transmission and viral load kinetics of the SARS-CoV-2 Delta variant in vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals in the UK, a prospective longitudinal cohort study.
Yeah,
Um,
let me share the main thing here.
mhm.
Um, so over in the interpretations, vaccination reduces the risk of Delta variation infection and accelerates viral clearance. So that's in the individual,
Mhm.
right? Nonetheless, fully vaccinated individuals with breakthrough infections have peak viral loads similar to unvaccinated cases and can efficiently transmit infection in a household setting, including to fully vaccinated contacts. So your protection may be reduced, but your chances of getting it from an unvaccinated or unvaccinated person, there's no significant difference there, according to this study.
Let me see. Peak viral load similar to unvaccinated cases and can efficiently transmit infection in household settings, including fully vaccinated. Host virus associated infection may shape the entire viral. I don't think this means. Um, I don't think this means that the likelihood is identical. And in household settings, kind of suggests the intimacy of like a shared interior space. I think this is only saying that with Delta, fully vaccinated people can transmit the disease to other people, which is true, of course. But you're going to see lesser expressions of this problem at basically every level. If everyone in a workplace is vaccinated, fewer people are likely to get the disease, to transmit the disease, to experience severe consequences of those disease, everything. Whereas if there are some people who aren't vaccinated, the risks just go up generally.
So you said a key word there, and you're right about that. They're not identical, but they found no significant difference.
Uh,
So the likelihood of you getting that from a vaccinated or unvaccinated person, there's no difference.
Let me
Your
see.
chances of like the vaccine is like for yourself, your chances of getting it, that may be reduced. So you
These
understand what I mean? Like there's two different things here.
variables are
What happens to
correlated.
you
Groups overlap.
and whether it can be transmitted, whether an unvaccinated or a vaccinated person can transmit it to you.
I'm not sure if the study necessarily says that. Um, the um, the only thing I'm seeing here that says indicates no significant difference is saying it does not necessarily indicate no significant difference. I think what this is essentially saying is that in household environments, at least, so we can extrapolate this to non-household environments to an extent, but even with a person who's vaccinated, the viral load can become significant enough at peak that you can have significant rates of transmission. But I don't think this is an indication that all of the variables are identical or perfectly aligned, that you're as likely to get sick or as likely to transmit the disease yourself. Um, you know,
Do you know how likely someone is to get the disease from a vaccinated versus unvaccinated person?
from this study or in general? I imagine there
In
are
general,
plenty of different studies that have different numbers there.
do you have any right now on hand that you can use to back up your claim?
N- No. the claim that there is a difference in the viral transmission of vaccinated and non-vaccinated people. Keep
Mhm.
keep in mind that what we're looking at here is only the case if the vaccinated person in question actually gets sick. With that high of a viral load, we're talking about a sick vaccinated person. But that's much less likely to happen for a vaccinated person than an unvaccinated person. So in the conditions that we're looking in this study, we're looking at a sick vaccinated person and a sick unvaccinated person. But if unvaxxed people are much more likely to get sick, then there are, pre-existing variables that aren't taken into account here.
Do you know by how much they're more likely to get sick?
Um, a person who is unvaccinated as opposed to vaccinated,
Yeah.
I think they're at least twice as likely, given the same conditions, to get sick. Depends on whether you've had the booster or not. Now, Omicron, of course, is resetting these numbers a good bit.
Okay, so that's just your speculation, though. Like we got to look at what the evidence says to back that claim up.
Right. Do you have contrary information?
I have some evidence here that I can show you. Like here is from Public Health Scotland.
Hmm?
We're seeing here the age standardized rate of acute hospital admission. So these are people that went to the hospital. This was broken down on the Last American Vagabond in more depth, where you can see that he calculated the percentages and everything. We see, what do you notice from the numbers here? Do you see that people that received 2 doses, there's more people that
Well,
went to the hospital?
I would need to see the study first.
Okay. You want, right. Let me send that to you. I forgot you're not watching my stream and I don't have you on as a guest.
My apologies.
Let me get that for you. All right, so I sent that to you.
Thank you kindly.
Yeah, so you go to page 41.
Page 41. My goodness.
I know.
All right, hit me up.
So yeah, you see the numbers, right? You see that the numbers are higher in the people that received 2 doses, the hospitalization numbers, hospitalization admissions.
Yeah, but is this per capita or is this just like a flat number? Wait, where's the? I
It
see
says a standardized hospitalization rate per
per 100,000
100,000.
with 95% confidence variables. Well, if we're taking a look at the standardized rate, it's lower for the 2-dose people than for the unvaccinated people. By standardized hospitalization rate, do they mean relative to the proportion of the population that has that many people of that level of vaccination?
It's per 100,000.
Per 100,000 of the general population, or per 100,000 of that group with that level of vaccination?
Of that group.
Let me see. Per 100,000. I want to know that. Where does it say? Let me see. Age standardized hospitalization rates are per 100,000 people per week, as standardized to the 2013 European Standard Population, adjusted to only include individuals 16 or over. I think this is just general population. I don't know if this is the specific hospital group. Even if it was, though, the numbers go down significantly. If you look at the booster or third dose, the numbers down here are abysmally low. 5, 6, 3, and 2 per 100,000.
And it's because there's less people in the population that took the third boost.
But if it's per capita, that wouldn't matter, right?
If it's per capita, yeah, it wouldn't matter. But that's something I got to look into. But the thing I want to show you here is that there are people that are double dose that are getting this, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not denying that. But all the numbers, including the ones that we're looking at right here, seem to indicate that if you get the more COVID shots that you get, the less likely you are to be sick, to be hospitalized. In terms of hospitalization rates, the likelihood of being hospitalized is way higher if you're not vaccinated. I think like these numbers are massively higher. Again, I think these are standardized just per the general population, which is the reason why the number for the booster or third dose is so low, in part because it's smaller relative to the number of people who have just had the 2 doses. I would have to see their methodology. But if we're looking at like relative levels of hospitalization, the rate is way, 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 way worse for unvaccinated people. And then if you look at death, that is even more bad than that. You know.
Do you have evidence to back that up, though?
Of
Because
the,
you're just telling me that you think. So I would have to see where this is coming from.
sure, one
Otherwise, I
second,
would just take that as an assumption.
one moment. Um, let's see, hospitalizations, COVID, vaxxed versus unvaxxed. I've seen quite a bit of data to this effect. Chat, if you would like to provide um, any fine data points here. Let me see. COVID-19 case rates among 35 to 64-year-old individuals are 4 times higher in the unvaxxed population than in the fully vaxxed population. Let's see, case rate. Okay, that's 65 and older over there. Hospitalization rates. Yeah, here we go. Okay, this is from the Department of Health. Let me send this over to you on Twitter. We can take this a look right here. So if you scroll down to page 5, that's where things get started with the fancy graphs right here. It talks first about the COVID-19 case rating for different age groups. Young people, it's 3 times higher if you are unvaccinated. For middle-aged people, it's 4 times higher, and for oldies, it's 7 times higher. For the hospitalization rate, it's for young people 12 times higher, then 18, then 13 times higher, respectively, for between unvaccinated and vaccinated people. A pretty significant difference. If we look at deaths, then it goes up to 15 times higher in general, which is, quite bad.
Okay, so this is from Department of Health, um, Washington State. Okay.
Yeah, this is from my state.
Okay. And do you know how they tested the presence of COVID? Do they use PCR tests?
Let me see. Of what relevance is that, out of curiosity?
There's been a lot of false positives that have been reported with PCR, but the one from Scotland also uses that. A lot of countries use PCR, but something to take note of is that it produces a lot of false positives because let's say there's small fragments of the virus that's present. With polymerase chain reaction, you're amplifying the DNA sometimes 100-fold. So sometimes you're getting tested positive for something that's not even there, something that's been killed, or there's just small traces of the RNA strands.
The issue is that since we're using relative proportions, even if that type of COVID spotting had a bias, it wouldn't affect this data. Because we're talking about the relative proportions between different groups. If there was a propensity for false positives, then it would, at least to some extent, proportionally affect the results. There's no false positive bias that would lead to consistent, multiple times increases in the COVID-19 rate for unvaccinated people across every age group to this degree with such consistency. I mean, I don't like it would that wouldn't be a false positive. That would have to be like a like a government conspiracy to to hide all the numbers and data and all that crap.
So you want to go back to the Scotland data that I sent. You want to look at the death, uh, the number of confirmed COVID-19 related deaths on page 48.
48. I love going to page 48. Let me see. Number of confirmed COVID-19 related deaths by vaccination status at time of test and age standardized mortality rate per 100,000. Let's see. And then we have these time periods, age standardized, death rate, death rate, death rate, death rate. The booster and third dose have a remarkably low number of deaths. The first dose have very little in total, but higher proportional amounts. Probably because fewer people are just one dose. All right, what are we looking for here?
There's a high number of people that have died who took 2 doses. So it's not really protecting them that much from.
Well, I'm pretty sure that it is. First of all, if we're looking at the booster or third dose, it pretty clearly says right there. In terms of the per capita numbers, it looks like there's some variance here depending on the time period. But I have to admit, where is this data from?
Public Health Scotland.
I wonder about this. The number
Okay.
of deaths here listed are very small. We've had 800,000 deaths in the United States. I know Scotland has fewer COVID cases and fewer
Oh, that's because
people.
they're looking at it week by week since November 13th
Yeah, but week by
through
week, we
they're
lose
looking at
thousands of
it for the
people.
past 4 weeks.
Or I'm just saying week by week,
But
we
if you
lose.
add up all the deaths, though, if you add up all the deaths, the number's going to be higher.
Right, right. But if we're looking at it week by week, the US loses thousands of people every week, every day, tens of thousands every week to COVID 19. Whereas these numbers for the entire week of November 13th to November 19th, 2021, add up to across all the groups less than 100, which is odd to me. There's a lot of
So
data out there on
would
the.
you see that it's tens of thousands of deaths in the U.S. every week?
I'm sorry?
Where did you find that it's 10,000 deaths in the U.S. every week?
You can look up COVID deaths in the US per week.
On just Google, I can type it up and I can see.
Well, you
Maybe
can
it says
you can see it
10,000 deaths.
if you can see it, you can see a chart. COVID deaths, and then if you roll over it, you get a 7-day average.
Let me look that up through
I am
Google.
I am
COVID deaths.
overstating tens of thousands. Right now,
Okay.
it's in the several thousands per.
Several thousands. Okay.
Oh no, wait, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. My bad. 7-day average doesn't mean average of the week. 7-day average means the past 7 days divided by 7. I'm an idiot. Sorry. No, yeah, it would be right now the past. Yeah, no, yeah, from December 28th. Yeah, the 7-day average would indicate that it's been about 10,000 over the past week. Okay, yeah, I knew the numbers were higher than that. Yeah, about 10,000 in the past week. Yeah.
Okay. And do you know how many of these are from COVID versus with COVID?
Well, they're listed as what you're doing right now is you're inferring conspiracy. These are listed as COVID-19 deaths. So what reason would you have to believe that they're not caused by COVID-19?
They've stated that here. Let me show you the article where they've stated that. It's not really conspiracy. I'm just going off of what I've seen reported. So not this Fauci thing. Here, what counts as a COVID death? There is still no consensus about the exact number of people who have been killed by the disease. The official tally is more than 725,000. That was in October 21st, 2021. This isn't political. Let me send that over to you. Oh, my bad. I forgot to send it over.
What source are you reading from right now?
This is on Politico. It says what counts as a COVID death. Maybe you can do that.
So, of
I can
course,
find it here.
right, of course there is going to be no way of determining objectively what exactly constitutes a COVID-19 death, you know. Technically, like death from any cause is going to be really difficult to objectively determine. If you're hit by a car, you know, and later you die of heart failure, what do you list that as? Like concussive force, you know, vehicular accident, heart failure? With COVID-19, you know, the disease causes a breakdown of your internal organs. If a person is damaged by something else but then dies while having COVID-19, does the COVID-19 hasten their death? You know, did it cause them to be physically weaker? Would they have survived it if it weren't for the fact that they had COVID-19? There's always going to be some variance there, but from everything I've seen, it seems like the current reporting of COVID deaths is fairly faithful to the death was caused by COVID. If they did not have
Okay,
COVID,
so
they wouldn't have
that's
died.
based on what you believe, right?
Do you have any evidence to contradict
You,
that?
no, I'm just saying that it is inflated though,
How
right?
so?
Because they can count. Here, let me show you this. This is from Dr. Ngozi Ezike, and I can quote her here what she said.
A single
I'm playing
doctor?
for my huh?
Is this a single doctor? Is this published anywhere?
It is. It was. I forgot where she said this, but I mean, people can confirm this for themselves and make judgments off of this and do their own research. But
Well, we're sharing, like, I thought we were looking at like datas and studies here. If we're going to claim that the number of COVID deaths is overinflated, I mean, I don't want like a one doc. There are lots of doctors, you know. Is there any research? Like, why would you believe that?
let
I
me
could
just say
claim
what
it's underinflated.
she said. She's a director of the Illinois Department of Public Health.
And she's a person, not a single peer-reviewed article, right? I could claim that
Right.
the
Yeah. I'm
numbers.
just saying this is something we should take with a grain of salt. So is it all right if I just say what you said?
Sure, but after you're done, I'm going to make the case that the number of COVID deaths is underreported.
Okay. I'd like to hear your claim for that.
Mhm.
And what you say to back that up. But she said, I just want to be clear in terms of the definition of people dying of COVID. The case definition is very simplistic. It means at the time of death, it was a COVID positive diagnosis. That means that if you were in hospice and had already been given a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, that would be counted as a COVID death. It means technically, even if you died of clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death.
Is there any
Everyone
evidence of that claim?
evidence of that claim. Let me. There's like case studies to that. I mean, single things that are reported.
Well, I would love
But
to see some evidence to that effect. Again,
sure, let me.
there's no way to objectively determine what exactly killed a person in every instance. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were some cases where it may have been attributed to COVID. Hmm?
You acknowledge it's possible, though, right?
The reverse is also possible, but that doesn't prove a trend. See, I could say, for example, that
Okay, so one second. So you're saying that the reverse is possible and that somebody died of something else, but could have had COVID, but they
a person could die of COVID but not have the death attributed as such. I think that is also
that
possible.
it's not counted as COVID.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Like both could be the case. There's going to be variance in either direction. But if you have to prove a trend, you need more than just the knowledge that it could happen, right? So, for example, lots of old people die of COVID. How many people out there in the Midwest in America, 85-year-old boomers, died of COVID? You know, they just had a cough for a little while, wrapped it bad, died in their home bed that they've been sleeping in for 85 years, and then just got whisked off to the morgue, never had a doctor look at them. I'd be willing to bet probably a good number of people had a cough, then died, and it was never medically reported on. And it's not like they're doing autopsies and all these, boomer bodies or whatever. It's entirely possible that the numbers are off by a bit. But the best way to find out how many people have died of COVID-19 in America is by looking at excess mortality. That's the best way to do it. And those do reaffirm, more or less, the existing number of COVID deaths.
One second. Let me find like at least a case study that I found from the Guardian. I don't know what's it. I got so many links up here. It's hard. It's hard.
It's
It's
all
easy
right.
to.
I wonder why. Like, I wonder why you're looking at the information you're looking at. The idea that unvaccinated people die more often than vaccinated people to COVID-19 is so unambiguously accepted everywhere that the idea that you would try to challenge it is very strange to me. It suggests to me that you're not interested in understanding the pandemic. You're interested in disproving it. You have biases that you're not taking into account when you look at this information.
Right. So we can't really prove it one way or the other, then, right?
No, the excess mortality numbers pretty
Because
clearly
you
indicate
brought
that
up
there's
your
been a.
example of somebody could have died of something else, and then it doesn't get counted as a COVID death when in reality it was a COVID death.
Yes.
But that was just an example you brought up, something that you just I don't know made up in your head. I don't know what else to call it because I didn't see like any
So
evidence.
the point that I'm
So
making is that we can make cases in both directions, and the best way to settle that is by looking at the excess mortality numbers
all
for
right.
the United States.
So I would have to compile all these different case studies. So I sent you one.
You don't need to compile case studies. Why,
Why not?
actually, wait, I'll ask you. How many people do you think have died of COVID-19?
Oh, I can show you that. One second. Oh, we can easily look that up too. I have it here somewhere.
I can as well. It's, what is it, 850,000 now? What do you think the number is for the United States?
In the United States, it's between 700 something thousand to 800,000.
Oh, sure. Yeah, then we're talking about, okay, it's not exactly the existing number, but yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah, but a lot of those could be false positives for PCR, right?
no. I mean, like, really died. Like, how many people have
Really
really
died
died from COVID-19?
with it, from it, that needs to be differentiated, right?
I'm asking you to differentiate. Because of COVID-19, how many more people do you think have died that wouldn't have otherwise?
I mean, one second. Trying to understand what you just asked. Can you repeat that again, please?
Yeah. If it, how many people do you think died because of COVID-19? How many additional deaths did the existence of COVID-19 bring about?
Additional deaths as opposed to deaths that wouldn't have happened other like anyway. Okay, I get what you're asking. I don't know. I would have to look at the numbers in
It's
order to
just,
say.
it seems odd to me, that so many of the people who are anti-mandate and anti-vax are also like really weird about the reliability of the numbers concerning COVID. Like there's a holistic opposition they have to the whole business as opposed to, sort of a principled evaluation of the information. I mean, convince me,
I'm
right?
showing you information right here.
I'm Fauci pilled, I've gotten the ouchie. Why should I not, like, why should I oppose the mandates? Why should I oppose the vaccine? Like, what about my
Because you acknowledge
philosophy?
that risk exists of adverse effects, and I have data here on how many people have died, like the infection fatality rate. If you want me to go over some of these studies that I have
The
here,
adverse
peer reviewed
effects,
studies.
the adverse effects for the vaccine.
No, no, no. I have infection fatality rate, so people who have died from COVID.
Right. So
So
we
you
should
want me to
prevent
go
them
over
from
some of these
dying, right?
numbers we were talking about just now, about how many people have died from this?
Well, oh yeah. So how many people then?
All right, let me show you that real quick. Uh, let me share screen because it's another window. And then I'll send, well, this is a study that was by Ioannidis, on the European Journal of Clinical Investigation. If you can beat me to the punch and find it before I send it over to you. And there's another one also
Okay.
that
So
was published in the International Journal of Infectious Disease.
what are we demonstrating with this?
How many people have died from COVID? Because you asked how many people I think have died from it. This is giving us the infection fatality rate.
Well, this first article that you've given me was published in late 2020, so I don't know.
Right, but we can make an estimate, right? We can make an estimate of just the rate at which people are dying.
No, since then the Delta variant and then the Omicron have come out. I don't think any of this. I don't think it's relevant at all to the modern situation. Why are you even looking at information this old?
Because it gives us an idea of how many people died, the infection fatality rate.
But we
Right,
already
since then, other people picked up natural,
we
haven't people vaccinated, so haven't, wouldn't that assume that their chances of dying have been reduced if they picked up immunity?
the chances of people dying if they're fully vaccinated are still, I think, quite low. But the chances of people who are
Right, that's just your
unvaccinated dying,
assumption.
huh?
Keep saying I think, and you might be right, but you can't just keep saying I think. You got to bring up evidence
So
to
wait,
back it.
hold on. I don't think this has anything to do with what I was talking about. When we're talking about how many people have died, don't you agree that seeing how many more have died in a country than you would expect is a good way of ascertaining the death toll of a pandemic? Because the excess mortality rate in the United States from March 8th, 2020 to November 20th, 2021 is greater than the number of people who have died of COVID officially. The excess mortality rate is over 1 million. And I think, to me, that actually is a pretty strong argument in favor of the idea that we're underreporting the number
Out
of
of,
people who
out of
die
how
of
many
COVID
people?
19.
Out of how many people that are in the world? And this isn't me underestimate, like
Out of what?
Like minimizing the deaths. Like, but like out of how many people though?
Out of the population
That
of the
exist
United
in the world.
States.
Okay. So let's give it your estimate, right? 800,000 out of 170 million people. How much is that?
330 million. And it's the largest mass
No, no,
death
no.
event in American history.
330 million Americans.
That's how many there are, isn't there? More or less.
Okay, so because you just said 170, not 170,000, 170 million Americans. So let's divide the number of deaths of people with the total number of the population. So what percentage is that?
About 0.3%.
0.3%?
More or less. Is there a point you're getting to?
I'm saying that it's not 0.3. It's there's at least two zeros after the decimal.
It is not. 800,000 people out of about 330 million would be somewhere between 0.2 and 0.3%. I can do the math really quickly. I'm a liberal arts major. You'll have to forgive me. 800,000 divided by 330 million. This answer is not very helpful because it's telling me million is meters.
0.002. So I was right in when I said that it's
So,
2 zeros after the decimal, right?
you know that when you count things in percentages, you move the decimal point 2 to the right, right? So this would be
I just did the
0.24%.
calculation.
So I said
I
0.
just did the calculation. 800,000 divided by 330 million is
Yes.
0.024.
So this would be about 0.24%.
0.024%.
No, 0.24%.
Oh, right. Okay. I was thinking about the rate.
Which is quite a lot of people. In fact, it's nearly 1 million people. It's more people than the number of people who died in the Civil War, which was the previous largest mass death event, and it took less time too. See, this
Yeah,
what
there's
like
more people that died in 1918.
this is what?
I was just pointing out that there's more people that died during that pandemic in 1918.
I don't believe that's the case.
So you think more people have died with COVID
Than from the
than
Spanish flu. In the U.S., the Spanish flu killed about 675,000 people. So yes, that is fewer than COVID-19.
out of the population? Though?
Yes, as a percent, that killed more people. I don't know why you keep like moving the goalposts. Like what we're like
I'm not moving the goalposts.
we're bantying
We just
soccer
started
balls
talking
about.
how many people died from this. But my whole argument here,
What is
my
the
whole
argument? That
argument
this
here
isn't
is
a
the
large number
possibility
of people?
of it matters the fact that that exists, then people should have a choice, right?
They have a choice.
No, they don't. They can lose their job. They can
Yeah,
lose their
that's
health.
their choice.
Right?
You also have the
That's
choice to say
that's coercion.
yeah, and you also have the First Amendment right to
So
say
you acknowledge it's coercion.
you have the First Amendment right to say the N-word to your boss. But because of the implicit coercive effects of the modern day economy, you will lose your job if you do that, and you probably shouldn't do that. I mean,
But
that's life.
so you're equating an offensive action with a person's choice whether to get vaccinated or not.
Well, the N-word, to my knowledge, has killed 0 people directly, whereas COVID-19 has killed almost 1 million people. So actually, I'd say that it's like you're saying the N-word 3 times in a row really fast. I mean, you're like really running it out super
So
quickly.
you're assuming that it's the unvaccinated's fault that people are dying.
It is because of the unvaccinated that the disease is rampaging through our country to the extent
Where's
that it
your
is.
evidence that it's because of the unvaccinated?
The fact that cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are all higher for the unvaccinated by a significant degree.
How does that change the fact that it's the unvaccinated that are driving this? That just means that the unvaccinated are more at risk of dying from it.
Because they're more likely to get it as well. They're also much more likely to be.
We just looked at the Lancet study, which showed that people who are unvaccinated or vaccinated have similar viral loads.
If they're already sick, but unvaccinated people are
Right.
far
So
more
if you're
likely to
sick, you
get
need to
sick.
stay home. If you're sick, then you stay home, right?
No, because you can
Why?
transmit the
Why can't you?
virus before you demonstrate any visible symptoms of infection.
Do you know the significance of asymptomatic spread?
Fairly significant.
You're saying fairly significant, but you're not backing that up with
Do you
any.
have, I'm sorry, do you have any data to suggest that asymptomatic spread is not something we should concern ourselves with?
The burden is on you, right? The thing is we
Okay,
don't
then
know. That's
then
the
I
whole
said no,
point.
we do know. It is a fact that you can spread the
You're
disease
saying it's
before
a
it
fact, but you're
demonstrates
not
any
showing me
symptoms.
anything. You're not showing me how significant it is.
What so this is the problem that I have, okay? There's no evidence that I can show you. You've already made up your mind. You're asking me to provide evidence for things that have been like CDC mandate for 2 years now.
But where
And
did the
whereas every
CDC get their
previous thing that we've
where did
gone
the
through,
CDC get their information from?
like if I showed you proof of the severity of asymptomatic spread, then you would go, okay, and then we'd move on to like the next thing. Like there's no point we're building to here.
But then you're helping me look at what you're seeing. You're
That's a
helping me.
remarkably charitable view of my view towards you. To be more realistic about my feelings towards you, I
So you're
genuinely
not
don't
you're
think you
not
give
going
a
to show
fuck.
evidence of the significance of asymptomatic spread. If you don't know, then just say you don't
We've
know.
banted
So
about
it's
like
okay.
40. I know that it is. If you have here, Chad is
But you're
linking.
saying I know, but you're not providing anything to back it up.
Here, all right. Here's a U Chicago study. Asymptomatic coronavirus infections contribute to over 50% of spread. Here, I'll send it to you over Twitter.
Okay.
There you go. Right
All
there.
right. So
It's an
what
older
study?
article from before Omicron and midway through Delta as well. So it's possible the effect is more severe now.
All right.
The research team
Sounds
found
good.
the research team found that only 14 to 20% of COVID-19 individuals showed symptoms of the disease, and that more than 50% of community transmission was from asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic cases. So the fact that unvaccinated people are more likely to get sick does mean they are more likely to infect their coworkers.
As health officials face another wave of coronavirus, of the proportion of infected cases that develop symptoms and the extent to which symptomatic and asymptomatic cases contribute to community transmission. Recent asymptomatic testing guidelines are ambiguous. Using an epidemiological model that includes testing capacity, we show that many infections are non-symptomatic but contribute substantially to community transmission, the aggregate. Their individual transmissibility remains uncertain. If they transmit as well as asymptomatic infections, the epidemic may spread at faster rates than current models often assume. If they do not, then each symptomatic case generates on average a high number of secondary infections, typically in schools. Regardless, controlling transmission requires community-wide interventions formed by extensive, well-documented asymptomatic testing. All right, so you provided one source. You
Would you like 39
have
more, my good sir?
39. That's a bit of an bit excessive.
This is what I mean. Like, yeah, no,
We'll
this
just say
is
that it's
this,
possible. We'll just say that it could be contributing.
okay. Hey, can we talk about the thing like that you actually care about? Because I know it's not COVID. Like, what is the actual issue at hand here?
Why why are you changing the subject here?
I'm not.
Where the main thing that we're talking about
The
is that
actual
I'm against mandates because there is a possibility of risk, right?
what risk are you talking about?
All right, let me show you.
Wait, are
Do
you
you know
talking about the
about
risk of vaccine?
Do you know about, yes, if you get the vaccine, there's a risk that you can get certain adverse effects.
Okay, what is the likelihood of that adverse effect taking place?
As long as a possibility exists, it should not be mandated.
It is
People
not
should have
mandated. There were
people will
also,
lose their jobs if they don't get the vaccine.
you realize there are adverse effects for the other vaccines that people get when they're infants, right? Like the like 17
Yeah, and that's
vaccines.
why people are given a choice, and you don't have to show your vaccine status when you go inside a restaurant.
You can't go to school without those vaccinations.
1 second.
And school is legally necessary. You need to be able to attend school. You need an education.
For like the measles and all that. And those have been around for how long?
Varyingly, some 20, 30, 40, 100 years.
Okay.
They have adverse
The
effects, you
long-term
know.
effects of those are known.
And
It's a bit more conclusive than what we have here with these vaccines, which what I have up here, I'm showing you. Clinicaltrials.gov for Pfizer, the BioNTech vaccine. Clinical trials do not end until May 15, 2023.
okay.
It says here's their emergency use authorization document. On page 52, vaccine-enhanced disease, available data do not indicate a risk of vaccine-enhanced disease, and conversely suggest effectiveness against severe disease within the available follow-up period. However, risk of vaccine-enhanced disease over time, potentially associated with waning immunity, remains unknown and needs to be evaluated further.
Yeah.
In
And how do you
clinical trials and in observational studies that could be conducted following authorization and or
how do you
licensure.
think we learned that data for the earlier vaccines?
Clinical trials. People were told.
Wait,
that
do
they
you
were
do you
part of the
think we
trial.
did
We've
four?
been told here.
Hold on. Do you think we did 40 years of clinical trials for all of those other vaccines that we now give to children before, like?
It certainly wasn't just a few months and then forcing people to take it, and if they
Hold on.
don't
Wait,
take
stop.
it, then they lose their job.
Hold on. We need to go through this one at a time. First of all, you already said that any risk is too much, which means that that opposition would include the vaccines that everyone gets when they're born. Additionally, you know, if you think some vaccine risk is acceptable, fine, but you said none is. Already, you can't go to school if you don't have those vaccines. You know, they're given to you essentially at birth. Secondly, the reason why this vaccination production took less time is because we've developed. Technology has moved on. This is a good thing. The idea that the vaccines right now are less reliable than the ones that came out a century ago is not
This is the
true.
first time they're using mRNA vaccines.
First of all,
the
no, it's
previous
not.
trials were
That's
shown to be negative.
That's not true.
But
First
they
of all,
skipped animal trials in order to develop these vaccines.
they were put on emergency authorization after evidence was found that they were acceptable, and so far, all the available evidence shows they are as safe or more safe than we expected them to be. The likelihood of getting hurt via those vaccines is infinitesimally small compared to the likelihood of getting hurt by the ongoing pandemic. So by any, virologist standard, that is a victory right there. The mRNA vaccine model production is not this new scary thing that's never been shown or tested before. You don't get it, and I don't get it, because we're not epidemiologists, but that doesn't mean it's untrustworthy inherently. And I would trust it a hell of a lot more than a vaccine that came out in the 40s.
Judgments based off of how we know our bodies. But let me go on and show you.
Wait,
here.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that sentence? Wait, what was that?
It said we can make judgments based off of knowing how our bodies react to things.
No, actually,
many people have autoimmune diseases, right?
No,
a lot of autoimmune diseases are underreported.
Knowing how your body works does not mean that you have any meaningful information on the development of or safety of a vaccine.
Why can't you make judgments on yourself? Like did you know many people are allergic to polyethylene glycol and don't even know it?
You can make judgments about yourself. That doesn't mean you can make judgments on the vaccines themselves.
And then also consult with a doctor.
You can do that. The number of people who have conditions which make them vulnerable.
Why is that not okay?
Why is what not okay?
Why is it not okay to consult with a doctor, perform your own research, and then make a judgment on your own on whether it's okay for you to get the vaccine or not?
You can. And if you decide to choose the wrong option, then people have a right to judge you for it.
You get punished. Oh, you didn't choose right.
Wait, hold on. You realize
now you can no. So we're killing people. If
are you familiar? Are you familiar with the concept? Are you familiar? Are you familiar?
Just answer this one question.
Uh-huh.
Do you care about people dying for losing their health care because they lost their job?
Other question. Do you care about the concept of a consequence? Wait, hold on. Wait. Okay, hold on. You realize, because you're unfamiliar with some very basic stuff here. So it's possible to be free to do something, but for there to be consequences to your choices. This is how reality and also being an adult works, okay? So we have the freedom to do a great many things with our lives, but they're not always going to be to the liking of other people. Now, I'm a socialist, so the fact that adverse decision making on one person's part can lead to economic and medical ruin is not something that I like. However, I think it's ironic that you would advocate against taking the vaccine in favor of people's medical rights when it is exactly other people's medical rights that you are hurting by subjecting them to a population that is not fully vaccinated. People are dying because of what you're saying. People are going to the hospital because of what you're saying. They're racking up
And
hospital
what about
bills.
the people who are dying after they get vaccinated? So
How many of
here
them are
is
there?
you can go to veggieaccess.org to look at the number of adverse effects.
How many of those
You want
adverse
to do
effects
that?
are death?
There's also theirs, but Veggie Access is the international version. This is what the World Health Organization uses.
I can't compare data across countries. We should look at the VAERS, what we're looking at in the
So
United States.
why don't you want to look at internationally? So you only want to look at VAERS?
Because other countries have other vaccines, other reporting methods, other languages. What do you mean?
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair enough. So
generally we've been talking about
let's look
stuff
at
in
the one
America.
from VAERS. Let's look at the one from VAERS. Do you know how many are reported?
How many
Okay.
adverse effects?
Mm-hmm.
Probably billions with how that system works.
No, on VAERS. What do you mean by billions based on how that system works?
Can
How
you
does it
explain,
work?
how do you understand VAERS to work out of curiosity?
People report their adverse effects and they need to document like where like the doctor that they look at they have to list the lot number of the COVID-19 vaccine that they received. They have to put the manufacturer, right? So are you just assuming that this is that there's anti-vaxxers that are flooding this place? Is that what you're assuming?
Is it self-reported?
Is it self-reported? It has to be verified before it's self-reported,
Verified
right?
how?
You have to put the manufacturer, right? You have to put the doctor's name, right?
Okay.
So
But
is your assumption that
is it
so
self-reported?
wait, is your assumption that it's anti-vaxxers that are flooding this place?
I have not said any such thing. So answer, is it
Oh, no,
self-reported?
I know. I'm just asking if this is what you're assuming.
No. I don't know. I've not said that or implied that. So it is self-reported.
Hmm.
Okay. And you can report just about anything, can't you?
I mean, you have to put your doctor's name. You have to say where you like what the symptoms you're experiencing, right?
Right. But you can just say whatever. Like the doctor doesn't need to test you to make sure that what you're saying is true. It's self-reported. The doctor doesn't report it. You report it. Whatever you say is what goes into the
What
system.
are you implying the motivation of these people are?
I'm just
But are you
working out the
saying that
facts with you.
they're not experiencing this and then they're reporting this?
I'm just working out the facts. It's funny, by the way, you were so concerned with COVID-19 deaths being overreported earlier, and now we have this completely unauthorized self-report system that's not even
Well,
meant to be used to gather
this
data
is what
for
they've been using for
sociological
decades.
purposes.
They've been using this for decades to
Yes,
make
they have.
decisions on when to
Why?
stop producing, distributing vaccines.
What do they use it for? How do they use that data?
How do they use it? They look at the data and then they're like, okay, there's people that are reporting adverse effects. Let's let people know, or let's stop distributing this vaccine.
Just any adverse effect? I mean, there have been
New
many
York Times
reports.
article from 1976 shows when they did that, when they reported, let me see how many number of people reported adverse effects for that. Um, were you going to ask something in the meantime?
Yeah. What do they use that data for?
So I said they use the data to make decisions on whether to stop distributing vaccines.
Okay. So why haven't they stopped distributing the vaccines then? There have been probably
For
hundreds of
these,
thousands, maybe millions of theirs adverse effect reports, no?
I can only speculate on why.
What are your speculations?
Is and what relevance is my speculations?
Well, I'm curious what you think of it, you know? Do you think they're just charging ahead, you know? Like they're just running on forward, like they don't even care?
Considering that our our big pharma companies, they buy off our politicians, right?
Okay, yeah.
We acknowledge that that's true.
Uh, it depends on what you mean by buy off. But yes, you're alleging conspiracy. That's what I thought. Yeah,
No, 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 no. I'm not alleging conspiracy. This is my speculation. It's not
you're speculating
the
conspiracy.
hill that I'm dying on. My hill that I'm dying on is that it should be a person's choice, right?
It is currently a
It should be a
person's
person's
choice.
choice.
What you're actually talking about
How
is
much choice
removing
do they
others'
have to lose their
choices.
job? They have to lose their health care. Do you not care about some of these people that could die if
You
they get myocarditis or
you
can get blood clots?
yeah, of course, but I also care about the much much
So then
much much greater number of
should this
people who have
be
died of
forced?
COVID-19.
I care about those people too,
Oh, okay.
but why should this be forced on people to
It's
take
not. You
this?
keep okay, you keep doing this. It's not forced on you. You also have a
How if you
freedom to
literally you
call
can
your
lose your job
yeah, and you can lose your job for
and then you
saying
lose
to your
your health
boss the
care.
N-word. You can do that.
You
Yeah.
can also not go. You're saying that not getting you're equating not getting vaccinated as something offensive.
Yes,
Is it
I
not
am.
offensive that
No, no,
someone
no,
could
no.
have an
No,
allergic reaction?
not
And then you're like, oh
offensive.
no, you should get that. And then they get an allergic reaction, and then what happens to them?
Harmful, not offensive. There's a difference. Anyway, once again, you have a choice. What you're talking about is removing the
Not a
choice of
real
the
choice.
employer to fire you for making bad health decisions. You're talking about
Um,
removing their freedom, essentially, and the freedom of your coworkers who don't want to work with dangerous, unvaccinated lunatics. I think that it's the right of businesses to preserve a healthy environment on their grounds by firing idiots who don't make the right decisions for the health of themselves and
so
those
this is
around them.
your subject. This is your opinion
It's
that you
backed by
think
a
is the
lot of
real.
data that we've talked about in this
And I'm
conversation.
backing up a lot of data here that it's not the unvaccinated that are driving the evolution of these different variants.
We've
That
we haven't even
vaccinated or
talked about that.
unvaccinated, you can still get the disease.
We
But here's
never
an
denied that.
NHS study in Harvard University. They found that the numbers that are reported in VAERS are underreported.
Okay. What numbers?
So this is from October 2000 to June 2006 through to October 2009 on 715 patients and 1.4
What does
million
this have to
doses
do with
of vaccine.
COVID?
It's if it was underreported back then,
So
why does that
for
apply now?
15 years later for a completely different
Why does
event?
it not apply now? Why doesn't no you can you're are you gonna tell me why it doesn't apply now?
I feel like you should have an intuitive answer to this, but given the fact that the COVID-19 is a very novel, unique, and highly temporal event, given the fact that institutions change, given the fact that the internet, which is the current vector for VAERS reporting, has exploded in relevance since 2006, I would say that the differences between VAERS in 2006 and now are so significant that they're essentially incomparable. Like it's you might as well be talking to me about like a different country or like a different institution altogether.
And it's also enough time for the corporations to have gone richer and
Right, of course. What does
the
that have
more
to do?
influence the
Do you just
politicians.
default to the same like NPC talking points whenever you don't have anything to say? What about corporations getting
What do you
richer?
mean NBC
No
talking
shit,
point?
they've gotten richer. Yeah, we live in a capitalist state, obviously. What the fuck? Like, you keep bringing this up, like, well, I care about people getting fired. Yeah, no shit. What does that have to do with anything we're talking about? This is the thing that
Is
bothers
that
me
they're
about.
not given a real choice and
Hold on,
therefore
hold on, hold
these
on. No, 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 no.
man,
The thing, but you don't target the real issue there, which is capitalism and decommodification. Are you a socialist? Do you believe in a proletarian state? Are you a Marxist?
I don't really know what to
Yeah,
label
I didn't
myself as.
fucking think so. So you posture with this
Why?
anti-corporatist shit, but in reality, what
Why
you care
didn't you
about is
think so?
vaccines. No, no, no.
Why do I have to have a label?
I hear this with you guys all the times. You know,
Who's these guys?
yeah, these
Who's
guys,
these
you have,
guys?
hold on, you have the tough questions at your hands. And whenever you don't have a good answer, you go back to the same talking points. Anti-imperialism this, you know, anti-America this, corporations that. But you don't give a fuck
So
about
you're
any of
grouping me
this.
with a bunch of people and you're not dealing with me
You don't
as
care. You don't have
inclusive.
solutions. How would you fix people getting
You haven't
fired?
asked
And
me
it,
what my solutions are, but
no,
that's
hold on.
irrelevant.
How would you
talking
fix the problem with people's economic well-being depending on corporations? How would you fix
how
that?
is this relevant to the debate about
That's a
mental?
great fucking question. How is it relevant? I ask you. Would you like to answer that one, or should we move back to COVID and stay there?
Can you please tell me? Because does this have to do with the main topic?
That's a really that's such a good question, man. That's such an excellent. Oh God, I wish I knew.
All right, tell me then. What? It's an excellent question. Do you have an excellent answer?
For the question I asked you.
The question, which I have no understanding of what relevance it has to this debate.
Do you remember the question, or are you just fishing for things to say?
The question of what solutions do I have to our economic
Yeah.
problems?
Yeah. How would you
We
address that?
can have a whole discussion on that another time, but it seems like you're trying to move away from this
No,
topic.
I'm trying to keep you from. This is my thing. You don't have an answer to half your dumb shit COVID vax question. Like, why the fuck
I have an
shouldn't
answer,
corporations fire people?
but
And then
just
you bring
not.
up, like, well, people get fired in general. I know people get fired in general. That's how our economy works. You brought it up. You brought corporations up. You brought the pharmaceutical industries up. I'm only talking about the medical data here. We were talking about VAERS and how VAERS self-reporting system isn't a good metric for accurate sociological analysis. So how many people have died
They've been
then?
using it for decades.
Yeah, but
And
not for
but a possibility
sociological
exists, all right?
analysis.
Doesn't the possibility of adverse effects exist?
For
Here's a
everything.
CDC document. I don't know if you or here, I'll send this to
So
you.
wait, what do you think researchers use VAERS for?
You think the CDC is credible? Yes or no?
On some things, they have their moments.
Okay, like with their 5 day 5 day lockdown now.
I think they're probably being fairly motivated by certain economic uh, compilations. I don't know
Yeah,
how significant that
I
is
agree with you.
exactly. I think the main stated reason is that they're trying to get
So
healthcare workers back in the fold quickly, which is a fairly admirable
mhm,
reason. And maybe they can't like distinguish between a 10-day quarantine for everyone, but a 5-day quarantine for healthcare workers. I don't know. There's a lot that could go in there.
yeah, interesting speculations. So I sent a CDC document here on page 21. It talks about myocarditis, which shows that they acknowledge that this is a possible risk,
We
right?
know we know that there's always a possible risk
Okay,
with vaccines.
so then why should, if somebody's afraid of this risk, right?
Why
Children,
should they be
for
forced?
example, yeah,
Because all the other vaccines already have risks associated, and we by your metric we force those too. Should we not force any vaccine? Should we just go back to the 1800s? What would you prefer? Huh?
people should be given a choice no matter what
So do
on
you
whether
so
they want to get a
children
vaccine or not.
children should go unvaccinated up until they're 18 and legally able to make that choice, even though child mortality rates would increase 10
That's
times?
the decision on the legal guardian.
Wait, so you think wait, hold on. So you want people to be able to make a choice on this, but you also think the other vaccines, like they should just be forced on you by your legal guardian?
Can a baby make a decision?
Well, no. So you don't care
Okay,
about
then
autonomy then?
why are you saying that the baby, like, I don't understand what you're trying to say here.
I'm saying that you don't actually seem to care about autonomy if you're saying that a parent
How?
should be able to force a vaccine on a child.
I mean, it's their decision after they look at information,
No, it's
right?
the baby's decision.
A child a child can't make an informed decision
So wouldn't you wait
if
for them
they're
to
that
turn 18?
young. If they're that young,
Shouldn't you wait for them to turn 18 then? I mean, sure, many of them will die, but shouldn't you wait for them to turn 18?
that's your assumption.
No, wait, hold on. If we didn't
What
vaccinate,
vaccines are you
hold on,
talking
wait.
about?
If we didn't
Are you talking
vaccinate,
about measles? What
no,
what
hold on.
vaccines are you?
If we didn't vaccinate our babies, yes, many of them would die. I'm
Many parents will choose to vaccinate.
no. You're missing it again. If you care so much about people's decision to get these vaccines, then we shouldn't have parents force it on kids. Kids should wait until they're 18, and then when they're 18, they can make the decision to get vaccinated or not.
So
Like,
you acknowledge that these negative adverse effects exist. Yes or no?
No one doesn't. Everyone knows that
Okay,
vaccines could
so
hurt people. Wait, wait,
why
wait!
force
Don't
it
run
on
away! Wait,
somebody?
don't run away! We're almost there. So
Why
wait,
force it on somebody?
wait. You're
What?
right. We shouldn't force it on people. So shouldn't we wait until people are 18 and then let them decide whether or not to get vaccinated? Because there
That's
are
a
adverse
parent.
effects to the measles vaccines and crap like that, right? So shouldn't we let
I mean, it's not like parents don't consult with their like 15, 10-year old when it comes to like these vaccines.
a 15, 10-year-old, they can't make decisions about this sort of stuff. We should wait until they're 18. That's the only fair way to do it. Now,
They consult with their parents.
admittedly, millions of these kids will die, but there are
Yeah, so
adverse effects.
that's just a number you just came up with.
It's a
Like,
very good number. But so millions will die.
but it's not a real number. It's
It's
just something you just say up.
I believe it or not, it's millions a real number. You can count up that high if you take the time to.
That's not one that, and you know that.
If you if you care about a person's autonomy, should we not wait for all vaccine decisions to be made by an adult? Why would we? So why are you okay with parents forcing this on their kids?
Are they forcing it or are they consulting with their kid?
They're babies. Most of these vaccines are delivered when they're 6 months old or something. I don't think the
What can you
consultation.
do?
Huh?
What can the baby do?
Get vaccinated and very little else.
Well, that's a baby. Like people that work these jobs aren't babies.
Yeah, right. So don't you think if you're so concerned with people's individual right to choose whether or not they get vaccinated, that we should extend that right to the millions of babies who suffer forced vaccinations every single year?
Can you repeat that question again?
If you think we should have the right to decide whether or not to be vaccinated, to not have it forced, don't you think we should extend that right to the millions of babies every year who have vaccines forced to them, who were never given a choice, who were never told the adverse effects? Don't you think those babies have a right to wait it out until they're old enough to make that decision themselves?
This is a whole other discussion. Right?
What?
We're talking about these mandates that are being forced on adults.
Why? Why? So you can force it. You can't force it on an adult, but you can force it on a kid. Why shouldn't we? What's a few million baby deaths? We're talking about freedom here. Freedom and the right to
Can a
choose.
baby give informed consent?
No, so they should wait till they're 18.
Okay. So, but an adult can give informed consent.
Sure. So yeah, and
Okay,
so
so only
should we wait until people are like
kids
asleep
wait.
when they can't give informed consent, then like stab them with the Fauci ouchie? Like, what? Why are you for the baby tyranny?
How many times do we have to go over this? The baby can't give informed consent.
Yeah, so we should wait. Like, listen, listen. All of these vaccines have adverse
They have
effects, by
legal
the way,
guardians.
and they're forced on children with no warning. Like the kid can't understand. Hepatitis B, rotavirus, diphtheria, tetanus, and axillary pertussis. Tetanus, diphtheria, axillary pertussis again. Haemophilus influenza, pneumococcal cochal conjugate, pneumococcal polysaccharide, inactivated poliovirus. How do we even know what these are? The kids can't know, certainly. Influenza, measles, mumps, rubella, varicella, hepatitis A, human papillomavirus, and cochal. I don't even know what half these are.
All right, so let's go back to talking about these vaccines. Did you know that the antibody levels for these vaccines decrease over time?
Yep, that's how they work. That's why we get boosters.
Okay, so we have to keep boosting each other all the time.
Is that a euphemism? Are you coming on to me?
So you think that we should keep boosting ourselves all the time?
I think we should keep getting booster shots. Yeah.
Okay. And you know that the booster shots are only adding more antibodies and not improving the quality of antibodies. And you know that there's now people, a lot of experts, right? You listen to these experts that are saying that the fourth doses, they're concerned that this might cause harm, that this may not
Where?
really do anything.
Where is that? Fourth dose
New
might
York
cause harm?
Times,
Can you link it to me?
but yeah, pull it up here. Or let's see. I just sent it to you, and of course, it's speculation. We gotta look at information to see if a fourth vaccine will even be necessary or not.
I thought we weren't relying on speculation here.
No, we're not, but I just want to get your thoughts on this.
Well, I think you have to pace out the boosters. If you do them too rapidly, there could be issues, but it really depends on what the medical experts say, right? I trust the medical experts to
And the
devise an appropriate vaccine delivery schedule because it's in their best interest the way we stay healthy too, you know?
okay. So you know that the booster shots protect against symptomatic Omicron infection for about 10 weeks. There's a study that was in Business Insider South Africa. I'm sending that over to you right now. So should we get a booster every 10 weeks?
That would I'm not an epidemiologist. It would be up to them.
You don't have to be.
No, you actually kind of do to be able to make that
So
decision.
look
Yeah.
at information and then make your decision.
We don't have that
Or for you
information.
to speculate.
Even the article you linked me was speculation. We don't have data on what the effects of a fourth shot, like we don't have data to look at there. Also, the third booster, the third one, you know, it came out before Omicron, didn't it? I'm pretty sure that it did. So like it would make sense that Omicron would cut through it pretty quickly.
Okay, so we just have to keep making new vaccines for people every couple months. That's your solution.
Yeah, saving lives is a difficult and often unrewarding job, but I think that
Do you
yes,
think
keeping
that
hundreds of
natural
thousands
immunity
of people from
is
dying.
do you think natural immunity can help people?
I mean, you have to get COVID to get natural immunity, but after you've gotten COVID, you do benefit for some time from natural immunity, you know. But that's like that's like smacking yourself in the head with a hammer to you know, spite the painkillers, right? I mean, maybe you have that effect, but there's other harm being done.
But what if someone wants to just get it that way rather than get vaccinated?
They have that right.
Or just boost their immunity, their immune system by taking vitamin D, which has shown to help decrease your risk of getting COVID-19.
Well, they have that right to.
Okay. But again, they lose their job, they
That
lose their health care, which means that their chances of dying increases, right?
Well, if they cared so much about whether or not they lived or died, they should have gotten the shot. Anyone who loses their
Based off
health
of
care
your
because
subjective opinion.
yes, my subjective opinion backed by the world's medical experts everywhere from every institution, even in the data you showed me. Yes.
And the data that I showed show that people unvaccinated or vaccinated can still spread it.
Nobody argues that vaccinated people can't spread it. You're arguing against a point nobody's making. They don't spread it as often. They don't get sick as often. They don't get sick as bad. They don't go to the hospital as often. And they don't die as often. And the data you provided showed that as well. There's just no arguing around that, you know? If you're like a radical, you know, anti-vaccine mandate, you know, wizard, and you want to die on that hill, then Godspeed, you know? But don't lie about the data to do it. Just say, like, I don't give a fuck how many people die.
You're the one that keeps bringing up, like, oh, I think.
Everything that
I
I've
saw
said to
this.
you here, I have substantiated with links shown to you from fairly reputable pieces of data. You're dragging up, like, articles on VAERS from 2006, articles on COVID from 2020.
No, none of them are recent, actually.
Did I imagine the 2020 COVID article?
2020. I have sources here from 2021 if you want to look at those.
To establish the thing we've already agreed on, which is the high number of COVID deaths, the fact that vaccinated people are less likely to go to the hospital, die, get sick, etc. No, I think we've established this. I don't understand what the issue is. More booster shots come out. So what? Get a booster shot. Why not? What's the harm? Like, why not? Are you vaccinated?
What's the harm is that people can get negative adverse effects. That risk exists.
Okay. But you realize that according to all available information, that is the case for every vaccine, and getting COVID is worse. You know, what's that thing you were concerned about?
Why is it
Mesothelioma?
that
What's
in
the
Israel, with the first country that got the booster, their numbers rose up so much
How about their
right
deaths
after
or
the
their
booster rollout?
hospitalizations? My,
Their
my,
deaths or hospitalizations.
myocarditis, yeah. The risk from myocarditis is higher.
That's
Uh,
one adverse effect. That's
what
one adverse effect out of several
if
others.
we are talking about deaths or hospitalizations or even just general unwellness? The vaccine is infinitely preferable to
Infinitely,
COVID-19.
based off your assumptions.
Infinitely isn't actually a real number. You're correct in that one. It's a concept. You can't count to infinity.
Okay,
You caught
so
me on that one.
you're over exaggerating.
I am.
Um,
I was exaggerating when I said infinitely. I will admit that. Um. Anyway, just what's the issue? Like, why can't we just get the booster shots? What's up? It doesn't hurt. I mean, it doesn't hurt much. I guess it stings a little bit. You know.
it would. The reason for why, well, at the end of the day, it's a person's choice.
It is.
But if somebody doesn't want to get it, it's because it's showing that it's not reducing the spread.
It is reducing the spread. We looked at data saying that
Whereas
earlier.
you're saying that it's reducing hospitalization,
Significantly, yes.
not reducing the spread.
No, no, it reduces both, but even just reducing hospitalizations is a huge deal, you know. There are hospitals that are filled to the brim with anti-vaxxers right now. Seriously, like go to any hospital, like anywhere in America, they will be swamped from people who aren't vaccinated
Your
or
assumption.
who are no, that's not an assumption. That is true. The hospitalization rates are insane right now. You can look at the difference between vaccinated and unvaccinated people for hospitalization rates.
Hospitalization rates for Omicron have decreased.
What?
Hospitalization rates for Omicron are less than the hospitalization rates from the original strain.
Okay. Omicron's only had like a week and a half in the United States.
We're talking about the rate.
Rate? Okay. Omicron is
Mhm.
also supposed to be less likely to send you to the hospital. What does this have to do with the relationship between vaccinated and unvaccinated people?
It's like, what's the urgency if the severity of the virus from this new strain is decreasing?
I mean, it's only like our hospitals are
Do you
overfilled and
think that the
millions are
virus
dead.
is going to be eliminated? Like, we're going to eradicate this
See,
virus?
this is why I think you might be being a bit insincere when you pretend to
How?
care about other people's like medical well-being. Like
This
this
is
to
not
me
answering my
suggests
question.
no, like
You're
you
just
like
giving your subjective opinion.
remember what was like 800,000 people died and you were like, "Well, how many is 800,000 really?" I mean, it's the largest mass death event in American history, but you know, how much is that real? Like I don't actually think you care about people's health, you know. What's the
When
hurry
you
to
care
get
about the health,
vaccinated?
but why is the vaccine the end all be all solution?
It
You
isn't. You
don't
should
care
also
about
wash
people
your
getting
hands.
about the effects.
Wait, hold on. How did we eliminate all the other great plagues?
The other great plagues, like the flu and all that,
Like
are you talking
influenza
about like
or or you know like the
19 and all those?
polio or like you know all the other stuff, measles, you know, like how do we
Measles is a different virus from influenza and
they
COVID-19.
killed
It's less
unimaginable
transmissible, so it's easier to contain.
wait, of course they're different viruses. They killed
It's
unimaginable
easier.
numbers.
I'm talking about in the way that it spreads. It's easier to contain the measles, smallpox, because they're not as transmissible as COVID-19.
How did
They're
we
deadly.
eliminate
You get it.
smallpox?
It doesn't spread as much.
How does smallpox not spread as much?
Do you know how much the difference is between smallpox and influenza and
how did we
COVID-19?
overcome all of these diseases that killed millions of people every year for basically all of modern civilization?
They're easier to contain because they don't spread as much.
How do we contain what do we do with there's some technology that we invented that allowed us to single-handedly cut down the infant
Yeah, a
mortality rate?
vaccine which wasn't mandated on people.
Well,
People were
actually,
given the choice.
again, it was. You can't even go to
No,
school if you don't have the range of shots that they typically give young people. It was. It genuinely was. What's happening right now isn't unique, okay? You are the oddity. Through internet disinfo, people like you and the idiots who follow you are the modern oddity. Being compelled socially to get a vaccine is just how we overcome plague. This is how our society evolves. This is how we get better. Lessen death. This is us growing past you. You're the unique thing. You're the aberrant right here. Nobody really should care about getting these vaccines. They don't make you any more sick than COVID will. They're infinitely less. Oh, you caught me. They're significantly less likely to make you sick than COVID will. You are the actual atypical chronological plague here.
Keep repeating talking points.
I am talking, and I am making a point.
Yeah,
but if you don't want to listen to it,
what you're saying with evidence, just keep repeating things.
Well, are you vaccinated?
It's none of your business.
You that stodgy about everything? That means you are, by the way. People who are like you.
You don't know that?
No. People who are like you who aren't are proud of it and they announce it. But when you are vaccinated and hypocritically argue against the mandates, then you go ahead and say, well, don't ask me about it. They did the same thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, they did the same thing. They're vaccinated, of course. But you don't want to lose your true anti-vax followers, so you cowardly deny the answer. Even though, what is this, a HIPAA violation? Your vaccination status? Why are you afraid of sharing it? I'm vaccinated. I'll tell you my dick length. What do you want from me? What are you, shy all of a sudden? Come on, just admit that it's to keep your audience in line.
You can't prove it.
Ah, well, you have me on that. Anyway, I love you very much.
I can't prove that you are a CIA asset either. Maybe one day something will be released.
Many such questions. Well, I love you very much. I hope that you keep up with your fourth booster when it comes out. And
so
yeah,
one last thing I wanted to show you here. Did you know that?
Hit me up.
So here's a study. Oh my God, it's not from 2021, but it can still serve as a model, and we can use it to make some predictions of what could happen. Right? Study from 2015 on PLOS biology. I can send it over to you. Imperfect vaccination can enhance the transmission of highly virulent pathogens. Right, so a leaky vaccine, one that does not stop transmission, can increase the evolution of more transmissible versions of that virus.
Wait, well, can you link this?
Yeah, I'm sending it over to you.
Imperfect vaccination can enhance. Oh, wait, is this the meme about people being vaccinated improperly? I saw Jimmy Dore talk about this.
No, it's not that. Where it's administered. In
this is from 2015.
That was the first thing I told you.
Okay,
that was the first thing I told you. That's why I said it can serve as a model.
Is there any evidence that imperfect vaccination is taking place right now?
Yeah, people are still getting COVID despite being double dosed or having boosters.
Well, you got me on that one.
Here's another one. Vaccines are pushing pathogens to evolve. I got you. Let me send that over to you.
Is this about COVID or is this in general?
Oh, it's just ongoing studies that look at viruses.
So yeah, what we're talking about right now is the same issue as the antibiotics.
It can serve as a model, right? To make predictions based off of information.
Really depends on a lot of specifics. So we're talking about the antibacterial super bacteria kind of dealio, where if you do something which kills 99% of its disease, the 1% that remains is more likely in a sort of evolutionary sense to survive. However,
that's how evolution works.
Right. The issue with that is that this doesn't really apply to COVID for a couple of reasons. There are already evolutionary incentive structures which increase the likelihood of new viral strains, even with no vaccinations involved, which is the reason why Delta and Omicron both seem to have come from unvaccinated people. I think Delta came from India.
Where's your evidence that it came from unvaccinated people?
Didn't Delta come from India? What was the vaccination rate in India at the time? Chat?
I'm not sure, but Omicron didn't come from an unvaccinated person. You know that it was detected in somebody vaccinated in South Africa.
Detected
and then it comes in Australia, which in Australia, if you're people who are unvaccinated cannot leave or enter the country.
Detected in isn't the same as...
Do you acknowledge that Omicron came from a vaccinated person?
I'm sorry. Hold on, really, really quickly, because I have to tear into you for this. Okay, you realize being detected in somebody isn't the same as finding patient zero, right? You do realize that you just said some incredibly stupid
Right,
fucking shit, right?
but then you saying that it came from an unvaccinated person is you just speculating.
Well,
So you
Delta
can't be
did
that
because
conclusive
India
either.
had a very low rate of vaccination at the time Delta came out. We haven't detected patient zero for Omicron. But given the fact that the viral load, which allows for the
Was
evolution of new
Delta,
viral
was that
strains,
patient zero? Was that patient zero
was
for
what
Delta?
patients?
Delta in
What?
India.
What?
Was the person in India in which Delta was first found in, was that patient zero?
No, it just developed in India
Okay, so you're assuming that it came from an unvaccinated person in India.
in an overwhelmingly unvaccinated place. Yes.
Okay, so it's an assumption, just like
Yes. It
in
that
when
is
it was
true.
detected in South Africa, it came from an individual that was vaccinated.
What was the hold on? What was the vaccination rate in India back then? Hold on. Vax rate in India over time. Let me see. Um, as of June 2019, 2021, only 4% of people in India are fully vaccinated. Holy shit. When did Delta come out? When did Delta strain emerge? Delta strain emerged. It was detected in the US in March 2021. So in March 2021, that would have been 3 months before India even hit 4%. Holy shit. Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of the day, you can't conclusively say whether
Thank
it
you
came
for
from a
your
vaccinated or
wise input.
unvaccinated person,
Yes,
right?
that is true. You cannot 100% figure that out. It might have been the incredibly small elite cast of people with access to COVID-19 vaccines early on, as opposed to the over 1 billion people who had no
I
vaccination.
mean, you can't say either of those conclusively.
I never said conclusively. Anyway,
Okay.
so I think
And what do you think?
if you want to look into it a little more, um, the conditions which cause the COVID viral strain to evolve and develop new strains are not, to my knowledge, exacerbated by a person being vaccinated. What you
Do you
want,
think that do you think that if we keep vaccinating ourselves, we'll one day eliminate the virus?
that's not how this works.
No,
You,
but is this what you think?
you keep vaccinating until eventually either the vaccine strain becomes innocuous enough that it's something you can deal with seasonally, like the flu or something like that, or until you're able to break it off into isolated portions of the world and deal with it there.
But can't this be achieved if people can gain natural immunity also?
No, natural immunity fades quite quickly. You can get COVID twice over.
Actually, natural immunity can last a lifetime according to
It
nature,
it
and it can
cannot.
protect you from 23 different variants according to another paper from science.
It cannot. You're free to
I
look
can show
into it.
you. I can show you right now.
You can show me. You're free to look into it. Does natural immunity last forever? You can Google that if
You're
you
just
want.
Google searching that. I'm providing actual evidence here.
So far, every study that you provided me either agrees with me or you didn't understand its conclusions.
Not really. No, not really. You're
Just
just
you can
saying
Google it.
stuff.
It's okay. You can Google it. You can find out. Okay, we can't go through every single misconception you have. Just also look up the process by which new COVID strains develop. Okay, because people being vaccinated doesn't seem to be the thing that exacerbates that. There's a higher viral load and a longer lasting viral load in
But
people who aren't
you know
vaccinated.
that that vaccination is not going like always like continually vaccinating people. That's just playing that's just playing catch up. It's going to keep evolving.
So I'm
And
sorry.
there's a
Is your
possibility
so
that the imperfect vaccination is what's driving the evolution.
do you have any evidence of that?
That's the paper I just showed you. That
Which
said it's the
I've already
possibility. It's
explained.
possible.
You
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 can't deny it's
you
possible.
will need something about no you keep saying this. You can't deny it's possible. You can't deny anything is possible. Okay, it's
Yeah,
literally
but then there's
non-falsifiable.
evidence here where it shows that this is how viruses can evolve, right?
Not all viruses. There are differences between different kinds of viruses. It's all
And
very
this one is very
complicated.
transmissible, right? So it's undergoing an obstacle here from the vaccine, right?
I genuinely can't tell how much of this is political bias on your part and how much of this is just the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like, I genuinely don't
I'm
know how
going
much
off
you
of
think you know
what
about this.
these studies are showing here.
You're cherry picking studies from any time range you can find that already
How
agree with your
many? A bunch of
conclusions.
studies here.
If you
All studies can be
the
used as
fact
models
that you
for president.
challenged my belief, hold on. The fact that you challenged my belief that unvaccinated people are hospitalized more frequently tells me everything that I need to know about the fact that you don't give a shit
I just
about
showed you
actually
data from
arriving at
Scotland. I
truthful
can also
positions.
show you data from the
And how,
UK
out
and
of curiosity, how did you
Switzerland.
arrive at that tiny low population Scotland study as opposed to the literal thousands of other larger, better reported on, and better documented studies? Was it because you thought
Like
it agreed with your
Africa,
conclusion?
which 6% of the population is vaccinated, even though they don't have a COVID problem.
What are we talking about?
Africa, six
I'm
percent of
sorry,
the
I was
population
talking
is
about
vaccinated, but
Scotland.
they don't have much of a COVID problem.
I was talking about
This is
Scotland.
Scotland. Okay, but that's one place. I can give you another
No,
place. I can
but
show you
the point
information from
is
the
you
UK.
ignore
I have
the
information here from the UK. I
oh
have
my
information
god.
from
All right.
Israel.
The
But
point is that there is a massive range of available information
you're afraid to look at
which
the
will
you're,
as is
you're
the
afraid to look
case
at the data.
which is as the case with any subject, there will be outliers in terms of findings. But rather than looking at the consensus and looking at the overwhelming impetus of data, you deliberately grab out anything you can find that agrees with biases that you already have, which isn't actually looking to the science,
But you know what you're doing?
What am I doing?
You're picking out cherry. You're choosing cherry picked information also.
Ah, okay. Well, I'll work on
Yeah.
that. Thank you. Anyway, I do
Yeah.
appreciate the call. It's always a good reminder to know that
So you don't want
uh,
to look at the data from the
we've looked
UK.
at
You don't want to look at
everything.
the data from
Listen,
Israel. The
this
data from
was
Israel from Worldometer, which shows that
uh
unvaccinated Israel and unvaccinated
mhm.
Palestine, there is no significant difference there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And these are
This
three.
this serves more as
These
a
are
life
they
lesson.
received 3 doses. No
So
significant
you're just
difference
going
there
to talk over? Yeah, okay. At least, yeah, give us the
because you don't want to
opportunity.
look at the
Give
data.
us the opportunity to end with some decency, man. Have a bit of grace, okay? Christ. Are you just gonna chat till I hover over the red button? Come on now. Look, it's been fun talking to you. I
So
appreciate
you're
you taking the
afraid to look
time.
at the data.
The
You're afraid to look at
I
the
will
data.
continue to look at the data. Thank you. Anyway, I'm glad
But
this is
you're
a
afraid
good
to look at it
emotive lesson, if nothing
from what
else,
you're
because
afraid to look
now
at this data, which
now
shows
we
hospitalizations in
all
the
right,
UK.
okay. Shit. Yeah, okay. He literally wouldn't stop talking. Oh my god. Literally incapable of shutting up. Jesus Christ. Yeah, he wanted a friend. There we go. Oh my god. First Omicron death was a reinfection. And he doesn't care, like I said, and he wasn't listening, but whatever. Like I said, that reminded me of the Jabson Hinkle conversation a little bit, where like the worse things went for them, the more they just kept talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, because they realized like letting me get in any word. Yeah, it seems to be like a trend in their groups. Anyway, if nothing else, we learned a valuable lesson that of the people dying in hospitals of COVID unvaccinated, at least some of them deserve it. There we go. The dude who got ratioed by his own parents. Yeah. You debated as well as possible. The topic was too boring. Well, the topic's not boring. The problem is that he's boring. Like he'll refuse to make any definitive points. He'll just sort of drag up like some study he thinks that he agrees with. And then, we'll just like look at it's like, oh, well, either you misunderstand this or actually agrees with me. He's like, oh, okay, I'll move to another thing as well. And then he doesn't make any definitive statement. He'll just ask questions, what do you think will happen with COVID? And then if you make a point on him, eventually he'll just forget that you made that point. Like the whole whether or not you're free to not get vaccinated thing. We addressed that like 6 times. And then afterwards he was like, anyway, people getting forced. Like it doesn't matter. Like you can do it as many times as you want. It'll just keep cycling back to the same point. Anyway, there we go. You had him with the baby analogy. Yeah, so real question, okay. Do you think that when I brought up the baby analogy that he legitimately didn't understand it, or that he just realized that there wasn't like a win to it? You know what I mean? Say when he brought up the pharma and corporations firing, then acted like he never did. Oh god, yeah, okay. If nothing else, the whole Gray Zone Jimmy Dore arc is good just because like calling out the fact that none of these dumb fucks are socialist is so satisfying, you know. They posture so fucking hard, you know. Holy shit. Yeah, you big pharma, you just want you people to you get fired by their corporations, you know, capitalist control of the. And then it's like, well, do you fucking believe in it? Do you believe in a proletarian state? Are you a fucking no, you're fucking not. Fuck off. You're not. Come on. You don't believe in any of this shit. Just like a lot of right-wing people, left-wing economic populism is just something that they throw up there briefly, you know, to sort of distract them from the terrible positions they actually have, you know. Is there any saving these people? I know virtually no conspiracy theorists. Let's stop being one. Unfortunately, some people just kind of are too far gone. What was that last study that he was talking about? The Israel natural immunity thing? Is this that one study? I know everyone... yeah, the Israel study shows natural immunity offers 13 times more protection than COVID vaccines, but wasn't this immediately torn apart? I remember that. People were saying like, well, actually, natural immunity is infinitely better and fixes everything, you know? And then like, yeah, it was never even like published. Yeah, and then it got like torn apart immediately. Yeah, here from Astante News. Natural immunity is no substitute for vaccine immunity. A flawed study from Israel has led to misconceptions about the vaccine's effectiveness. So this is what I mean about selection bias right here. Where, you know, in any event or anything that has like a huge range, it was only one dose of Pfizer too for the immunity people? I don't know. Oh, wait, for the people who had vaccine immunity, they were comparing natural immunity to one dose of Pfizer. Okay. All right. And they recommend natural immunity plus vaccine. Well, natural immunity is going to happen either way if you get fucking sick, right? In any event or any sort of like broad social thing where there is a ton of reporting and a ton of coverage, you know, there's always going to be kind of a natural distribution, and more like, I think, more like this, in terms of like what kind of stuff that you see. You know what I mean? So over here in the center, comprising like 99% of data, all right, is stuff saying, get your fucking vaccines. Vaccines are way the fuck healthier for you than anything else, you know, like this, that, the other, you know, all this shit, right? This is like 99% of the data that comes out, okay? But at the fringe, you're going to have like the 1% of stuff that is like, actually, the vaccine hurts more than it helps. Actually, you know, natural immunity is 1,000,000 times more effective, whatever. And the problem is, people like that dude we talked to, whose name I already forget, the people like that dude will, they'll latch on to anything at the fringes here, even though a lot of the stuff in the center, a lot of the stuff in the middle attacks the stuff on the fringes because it's bad. A lot of the stuff on the fringes is bad research, either politically biased, genuinely conducted with bad information, or is just had a highly unlikely outcome and isn't representative, you know? A lot of the stuff in the main group tears into this stuff because it's just not good research, you know? But they hyper fixate on this, and a ton of the stuff that we were looking at was just him dragging up, like he was pulling COVID sources from 2020. My God. Oh yeah, this XKCD comic. Jelly beans cause acne. Scientists investigate. And then we found no link between jelly beans and acne. That's the scientist result. And then somebody says, I hear it's only a certain color that causes it. Scientists. And then here we go. We found no link between purple jelly beans and acne. Brown jelly beans, pink jelly beans, blue, teal, salmon, red, turquoise, magenta, yellow, gray, tan, cyan. And then we found a link between green jelly beans and acne. See, and then there you go. 95%. Yeah, see, this is kind of the thing. So this is talking about like false positives at certain levels of confidence. And the thing is, there are so many thousands of comics, or not comics, God. There are so many thousands of studies, articles, reports, papers on COVID-19 that invariably you are going to get outcomes, even if they're conducted legitimately with no bias, and that does happen, that fall outside of the range of like, yeah, it's called p-hacking, you know. Essentially like working to maximize a given result within a given confidence range by playing the numbers game.